Let's play.
I'm Matt.
I'm Kerry.
We are the Stagmer brothers of Baltimore Knife and Sword. We're going to be building some of your favorite weapons, and some weapons that you've never seen before.
This is Man-at-Arms, REFORGED.
On this episode, we're finally going to make the knives of the fierce Furyan outlaw Riddick. We've wanted to do these blades for quite some time. In fact, it's almost made the cut every single season of REFORGED. We're going to do something pretty special. We're going to make some mosaic pattern Damascus. We're going to alternate 15 and 20 and 1095, but the difference is this time we're going to twist them out into a long bar, cut that bar into 3, restack those 3 bars, and then we're going to twist that again, which should give us a really gnarly pattern. It's going to be awesome. After doing the initial weld, you'll often see Ilya hot cut and fold several times to get our desired layers for our pattern on our blade. In this case, we want to leave those layers nice and bold, so he's just going to get them welded and start drawing them out to the bar. Now we need about 52 inches of total bar so we can cut it into 7 different sections, do the twisting, and then put them back together. Working with long stock like this under our smaller dies isn't all that easy. But now that Ilya's got the length and shape nice and even along the entire length of the bar, he can begin hot cutting his pieces. Ilya's now going to move on to twisting each individual bar. He starts by doing 10 total rotations, gets more heat, and finishes up with 7 more, giving him a total of 17 twists on each bar. As he twists the material, you can see the scale pop off the surface. He's going to twist this a lot tighter than we normally do, almost to the limit, to account for the stretching that'll happen when he forms the final blades. It's going to give us a really nice pattern in the end when we finish our blades out. We use the wire wheel to remove some scale off the surface of each rod. We're going to wire tie the whole thing together, weld the ends, and then weld a handle on, and then Ilya can move on to forge welding.
Now that we stacked and welded our twisted rods, it's time to heat them back up again and forge them together. Once I get a bar about this long and about this thick, I'm going to twist them again, producing an old Russian pattern called steady katavish. Each bar, when ground through, produces a star pattern. But since I stacked a bunch of them and twisted them, the star pattern will go across the blade this direction.
Now with the bars to Ilya's desired length, he's going to heat it up one more time, clamp it in the fly press, and start twisting yet again. This is going to be the final manipulation of the Damascus pattern before drawing it out into our blades.
For a Riddick knives, I traced the actual knife
that was used in the movie. The prop in the movie had the point cut off, so I just assumed that it was about that long. So we'll go ahead and get these blades cut. Nah, I'm just kidding. We're just gonna cut a rough template for Ilya to work from to do his forging. These swing blades, called Ulaks, in the Riddick universe, are said to have been forged by some ancient monks used primarily for defense. They're capable of slashing and stabbing, basically are made to mimic the natural movement of your arm. Ilya purposely forged these quite thick. That way I can grind about a third of the material off and really reveal that beautiful pattern underneath. I'm gonna start by using a magnet behind to really push and deck the entire surface. Since this is twist within a twist, I really want to reveal those stars, so you gotta grind quite a bit off the surface before you even start laying in the edges. These blades are single edge, so I'm only gonna do a hollow grind on the outside edge, then add the serrations in here. Now that the blade is profiled, it's time to move on to edge grinding. Now I'm gonna do a hollow grind on this. So you're gonna see I'm gonna have the blade facing upwards so I can make sure I don't over grind into the edge. I have to go about halfway, then flip it over and do the same on the other side. I like to grind in my depth first, and then move the line backwards to create my width. Those of you with knife making experience might be wondering, how the heck is he getting true grinds while that wheel is bouncing so much? Well, these grinders are great at hogging. They're certainly not precision, but it's what I've used my entire life, so I've learned to adapt, and I just get the job done. So the next step I have to do is mark where the holes will be drilled and where our blade catching serrations will be added to the spine, like you see here. Since we have a pattern cut out, it should be pretty easy. I'm just gonna lay it over top, use a Sharpie and mark that, and then I'm gonna hand it to Kerry to get the holes drilled in initially. Since I have this here already, go ahead and mark where our tang's gonna be set. I'm gonna extend the tang up into here. Our pattern already has the wood handle blanks on there. We're gonna give these knives tangs like this, and then our wood handle will be captured by that. This is all excess. I'm just gonna remove that real quick with a hand grinder. Then I'll go in with the grinder after Kerry's done and just pull the tang up into that shoulder.
I'm gonna be drilling these holes. I'll be using a center punch, coming in with a 1/2 inch drill for the 2 first holes. 2 second holes will be a 3/8, so I'll have to change it out. I've got my speed set very low so I can put a lot of pressure on it with a low speed. That should allow me to cut through this harder material a little bit better. So I'll mark my center and go right to it.
Now that Kerry has the 4 main holes drilled, he's gonna move on to drilling the holes at the base of each blade catching notch. And then I'm gonna use a hand grinder to cut into those holes to create the final slot. Now that we have our holes drilled and our slots done for our blade catcher, I have to do one last thing, and that's add bevels to each one of these peaks for 2 reasons. 1, that's how they are in the movie. And 2, I need to gain just a little height on each one of these, so when I add bevels, that'll get that job done. Use a torch to heat it up so I have that local area heated, and use a hand hammer to add my bevels. So our goal is to make 2 identical blades. Some of you might be wondering, you guys hand forged this and then just eyeballed where the holes went and the slots. How are you gonna make them identical? Well, I'd say we got them pretty darn close. We must have done this before. Let's take a look at the plunge grinds. Say they're pretty on point. After heat treat, we'll be able to adjust the geometry just a little bit, but I'm really happy with these. Gonna be pretty wicked in the demos.
Sometimes when you've done twisted pattern welding, it can be very important to normalize. This prevents the piece from twisting back when you go to do the heat treating. Ilya is going to take these blades from the furnace, let them air cool on the large anvil, go back to the furnace, bring them up to temperature, and quench into oil. Since these knives are small enough to fit in the kiln, I'm going to take them over to the jewelry shop where I have a digitally controlled kiln, set it to 400, place them inside for a couple of hours. They'll then be withdrawn and allowed to air cool.
Now that our blades are heat treated and tempered, I can finalize the edge geometry and then move on to polishing. After that, we'll throw it in some ferric chloride and etch our beautiful pattern. Alright, our blades are polished all the way through the grits. It's now time to give its final touches on the Scotch-Brite wheel. It's just gonna soften up all my lines and crisp up my hollow grind. You might notice that the radius of our Scotch-Brite wheel is a little less than our big wheels on our 5 horsepower sanders. So for hollow grinding, you might wonder why I'm using this to polish out. But if I go at a slight angle, I can create that same radius, so it's no big deal at all.
We're going to take some cocobolo wood to start to form and shape our handles. We've got our patterns laid out, drawn out on here. We'll cut these out, start to shape them. We've got our pieces cut. As you can see, we're a little bit heavy on those lines. We're going to use the hand Dremel and some of the smaller sanding wheels to get into some of those small ricassos, the concave areas. We're taking both pieces at this point and we're putting them together. We want these as close as possible. That way, if you're switching hands with a knife, you still have the same exact grip in either hand with either knife.
All right, now that our blades are fully polished, it's time to etch them. We're gonna use ferric chloride. This is a highly concentrated batch of it, so normally we have to etch a blade for about an hour. This will only take about 15, maybe 20 minutes. But to get us started, let's do a quick dip, see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. You see each one of these little white lines, it's going diagonal. That's each individual striation from the twisted bars going down, so each one of those little bars will have its own pattern. Ilya did an awesome job of this. Definitely looks like something from outer space. So what we'll do is we'll leave this in for another 10, 15 minutes. Then we'll fully buff it so that the blade's not dark. We want it to be bright like it is in the movie, but it'll still show our pattern. It'll end up looking a lot like this one here. All right, now our blades are fully etched. You can see I went ahead and spread some white ash along the whole surface of the blades. Just because ash is very basic, we had it sitting in an acid, so now we need to use a base to neutralize. I'm now gonna spray it with some Windex, which has some ammonia in it, just to clean it off and add a little bit more neutralizer. Then we'll move to the buffer. Gonna use some green buffing rouge on a cloth buffing wheel. All my white lines here are gonna turn super shiny. The black lines will stay black. I don't wanna remove any material, I just wanna shine it up. After buffing, this pattern is beautiful.
So we've cut our handle pieces. Now we've split them in half. Then we flip them around this way and put them back together. And as you can see, we've got these really close and tight already. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and notch this out for the blade. As you can see, Matt's put some notches in here. The reason we're doing that is we're not pinning or peening this handle through. We're going to cut the notch in the wood to fit inside of these. Now we've taken our two scales, we switched them around, we put them together, we've got our notches straight inside. Now what we've done is we've marked off where our highlights are so we can start to form our curves. We're going to take this to the sander and do the other side to match up this side of the grip. So we've finished shaping and forming the Riddick handles. We're going to fill these with epoxy. Bill and I are going to clamp these shut and we can finish these blades. So we've got the handle epoxy together. As you can see, there's a lot of epoxy all over it, so we can make sure all of the seams are filled up and everything is going to stay nice and smooth. We'll hand sand all that off when we clean it up and put the finish on. Yo!
To make them a little closer to the look in the movie, they actually need to be darker, even though this is a very rich, fairly dark wood. So I'm going to take some dark stain, hand rub the whole surface on them. After they dry, we'll probably do some wax to get a final finish, and then the pieces will be ready to go.
We've done a lot of different pattern welding. I'm pretty sure these blades are my favorite one we've done yet on the show.
Click here to subscribe, or click here to watch more episodes. Thanks for watching Man-at-Arms Reforged. We need to know what you want the guys to build, so tell us in the comments below what weapons you want to see next.